As a leader, do you find that questions take up a lot of time in your day? If so, you've come to the right place. My name is Ken Okel. I'm a professional speaker. I talk to audiences in person and virtually about ways to improve your performance on the job. I pull from my background in broadcast news, hurricane relief, and professional ballet. Today, we're talking about questions. As a leader, you want people to come to you with questions. You want to make sure you're giving out good information, supporting people. But is it all adding up so that you're spending most of your day just as a question machine instead of as a leader? I want to give you some suggestions, some actionable tips that you can use right away. Later on in this talk, you'll have an opportunity to download a free guide that I've put together that highlights some of the key points that we're discussing. I find these very good for refreshing your memory down the road. Stay tuned for the guide. First, kind of a scary statistic. A couple years ago, a Canadian firm asked leaders about the amount of time distractions was taking up in their day. 57% of the respondents said they were losing up to 2 hours a day due to all of those distractions. I have found that a big distraction during the day, questions. And these are just little interruptions that you get. They may not take up that much time, but when you add them all together, suddenly you're not getting as much work done as you would like, or perhaps that project that you always want to get to, well, it's never accomplished because you're answering all those questions. So what can you do? I think it's good to think about an umbrella. An umbrella does not stop rain, but it can protect you from it. The same thing can go for questions. Obviously, the questions, they can be like rain. You can't stop them, but can you limit their impact on you? Sometimes this is as simple as deciding what are some of the questions that you shouldn't be handling. For instance, what type of coffee or snacks should be available in the break room? Now, for some, this might be a really important question, but really at a certain level, is that something you should be spending your time on? Make sure you're not spending a lot of time on questions that don't apply to you. You'll never stop all the questions, but you can limit their impact on your day. I think it's very good to make sure you're using your team's brain power when it comes to answering questions. Now, here's what I often see. An employee comes to you with a question. It can be a good question. They don't have any answers. So you suddenly have to manufacture an answer, come up with one. You may not know much about the subject, so you got to research it some. This takes up a lot of time. What I think is better is to kind of create a policy where you tell people, if you're going to bring me a question, I want you to also bring me a couple of potential solutions. This doesn't mean that you have to follow the solution, but you're not having to start from square one. You're able to build upon what someone else has already researched. This also helps with employee engagement, I think, because they're having to research questions before they come to you and not just look at you as someone who's just going to be giving answers constantly. Try this out. I think it's a good strategy. Save you some time and also engage your employees much better. You also need to consider the urgency. We get in this mindset in today's world of instant gratification that if you think of a question, you need to ask it right away. May not be necessary. I think it's good if there are non-urgent questions to have employees group those into messages, like an email that you send out maybe once or twice a day at a certain time, where those non-essential questions can be asked. This is better than having a constant parade into your office, whether in person or virtual, of all these little questions. If something is urgent, yes, someone should come to you right away. But if it isn't that urgent, it's down the road, not that important, can they summarize all those questions into an email, let's say? They send to you once or twice a day. Then at a certain time, you can just go through all those questions and quickly answer them. You're still answering the same questions, but you're taking less time to do it. It's not each one representing an interruption. Instead, you're able to triage them much more effectively. Let's take a look at the question issue from a different perspective. Are people coming to you with all these questions all the time because they don't know what to do? That could signify a training issue where people need some training to get better, to understand things. The good news is we are now in a world where Training is available in so many different ways and at different price points. If you can identify where someone needs some help, it's very easy to find some training. Consider that. The better you can make your team, probably the less questions are going to be coming to you. I also want you to consider, and this is kind of one of those look in the mirror situations, are people coming to you with all these questions all the time simply because they don't think they're allowed to make a decision on their own? I can be a little bit of a control freak at times. I admit it. I like things done a certain way. But even I understand that I cannot control everything. I can't touch every process in a business. I need to rely on my team to work with me. I can't be making every decision. It just takes up too much time. So perhaps it might be a good idea in your situation to let go of some of those control urges that you may have. Give people a little more independence in their role and see how things go. I think it's good to hire qualified people, give them the expectations, let them have the training that they need, and then judge them on the outcomes. This way, you're creating employees who are better engaged, who are more independent, who aren't coming to you with issues all the time, all those questions that fill your day. So those are some suggestions that I think could be useful. If you want to download that guide, I'm going to put in the chat area right now the download link. If you're watching later on YouTube or on my website, hello, hope you're doing well. I will also include that information. Hope it is useful, and you are welcome to share this information with any friends or associates. Again, my name is Ken Okel, professional speaker, talk to audiences about boosting your performance, pulling from my experiences in broadcast news, hurricane relief, and professional valet. If you want to find out more about me and my interesting career background, go to my website, kenokel.com. Email me at tvguy@kenokel.com. Funny story about that. When you work in TV news, you go out in the public, like to a restaurant, people will recognize you. They won't know your name. So they will just yell out something like, "Hey, TV guy." You want to connect with me on LinkedIn? It's also through my name, Ken Okel. If you do that, I do ask, could you just jot in the invitation where we first connected, like in this session? That way I'm able to separate you from the sneaky people who are trying to sell me stuff that I may not need. Questions can take up a lot of your day. They need to be answered. But if you can make some little adjustments, they can have a much lower impact on your day and your productivity. Hope it helps. I'm Ken Okel. Take care.